So the purpose of today's video is going to be pretty much just documenting how you go about data logging, I suppose checking codes, and ultimately we're going to get into how to tune the computer in one of these F bodies, third generation F bodies with a tune port injected engine. That is the goal of what I'm trying to go through here. So I guess the beginning of this, the whole process, is going to be to try and illustrate why you might want to change the 1227165 mass airflow computer out of one of these things. Hopefully we'll be able to illustrate how much of a pain in the ass it is to get these things to connect and pull any useful data out of them. So because I've never seen this documented on a video before, I'm going to go into probably more detail than maybe a lot of people want, unless you have one of these cars and have never done it. We'll start with what you need. And ultimately what you need is starting to become hard to find, actually. First, you're going to need an OBD1 cable, which goes to a connector like this. Goes to a connector end like that. This particular cable I've had for a long time. It came with a standalone scan tool that I had from many years back. This is basically a USB to serial adapter, but made specifically for this purpose from a company called Motes.net. Now, Motes.net recently closed its doors and does not exist anymore. So, yeah, unfortunately, unless you manage to find their products online somewhere, maybe on eBay or some of the forums, third-gen forums, you might find a used one somewhere. You won't be able to find these products from them, but they were the de facto place to go for anything to do with OBD1 GM tuning, and they just up and shut it all down back in like November, December of 2022, and those products are now gone, no longer to be had. There are starting to be a few random places that sell this stuff, and I think there are ways to make your own cable as well. There is documentation online. So it's not like you can't do it anymore. It's just become a lot more difficult. So unfortunately, the days of easy OBD1 ROM tuning are kind of coming to an end, as far as if you haven't already got the equipment. Getting into it is becoming more difficult, because as these cars age and there's less and less of them around, I guess there's far less demand for the tuning equipment. So anyways, down here is where you will find your OBD1 plug. Right there. So plug that in, and then the next thing you'll want is to bring up a piece of free software. Well, free, or you can donate. Of course, you should always donate, because these guys need some kind of support to keep doing what they do. Called Tunerpro RT. Tunerpro RT is a wonderful piece of software if you want to tune anything to do with OBD1 stuff. I think it might even do some OBD2 stuff now too, but I never really got into that part of it. So, what do you need to know? Well, first thing, as you can see at the top, we are on 6E12227, or 1227265. Should be 1227165 is what it should say. But yes, that is the ADX file, which is the file that needs to be loaded in order to read that, which is an APYN 89 Camaro bin. So, because I've flashed it once before, I put a custom. I customized the tune to some extent on this car. Let's see, up, open, down a short, top, mid. Okay. Yeah, so one of the things you can do with this, I'll just run through this very quickly. There are different modes with these computers, and they are done by shorting and putting a resistor on certain pins of the OBD1 port. This thing has a switch to automatically do it. You can, of course, do it manually if you don't have one of these, and that will put it in diagnostic mode. So up is 10K, which puts it in a certain diagnostic mode, which does things like bump the timing and bumps the RPM and messes with a few things in the program. It was obviously meant for dealership stuff back in the day. Mid is just open, and down is short. And what that is doing, by shorting it, what you're doing, effectively, you're putting it into ALDL diagnostic mode, which is as you may have heard, that you can use a paper clip to get the codes out of one of these cars. This is the same thing. It's currently flashing a code 12, which is just a standard, there is no code type of code. There's nothing basically. It's just a ready code. So that's what you'll get if you short the ALDL connector with a paper clip. If you don't have any sort of diagnostic equipment, then it'll flash some codes, and if you have a problem, and then you can use those codes to look up from a table and find out what's wrong. Pretty rudimentary, but it works. For now, we're going to run this in open. So we can go in here to acquire data, which is the connect, and you see we have a data error. Okay, and this computer, again, sometimes it needs it to be in that mode. Okay, so as you can see, it does say now data connected. It needs to be in the up mode, which is 10K. That's like you put a 10K resistor on it. As I said before, that causes some changes in that it, I believe it bumps the timing, and it bumps the idle and does some other wacky stuff that normally when you're doing a data log, it makes it a little more difficult for tuning purposes. So that's just one of the unfortunate limitations of using this computer. We can show the dash. Alright, so this is basic stuff. As you can see, so we're now connected. The basic data it's telling us is BLM, because the engine's not running. It's not going to show anything but 128. You see vehicle speed is self-explanatory, 53.15 degrees Fahrenheit. That is what the computer feels that the block is sitting at for temperature wise. Throttle position 0.53, just to show you that we are live now. I'm pressing the gas, so you're getting a response there. And then target AFR, that doesn't really matter. Yeah, so effectively what you are seeing is that we have got a connection to the computer. It is working. Data lists. Okay, this is a little more useful information, but again, it is live. As you can see, battery voltage 10.8 volts, and this is all live data. We can briefly start the engine here. Oh, no, I guess we can't because the battery appears to be dead. Okay, so anyways, yeah, that's basic connection. I don't know if I can really show how slow the connection is. What else can we do here that might show that? Without doing an actual data log. Okay, so I have a previous log file loaded and I'm playing it back. And what this is showing you is, effectively what it's going to show you is how slow the log is. Like the samples per second are not very good on this thing. Unfortunately, it doesn't record very many samples per second, and therefore the resolution of your log file is not going to be very good, and it makes it more difficult to tune when you've got transitional problems like, you know, a stumble, a lean stumble, or whatever. It just makes it a lot more difficult when the number of samples that you're trying to get, maybe you're trying to collect a drag strip run, for instance, which is going to be, you know, in the case of this car, probably 15 or 16 seconds long. You're going to have a limited number of samples to be able to tune from. That is essentially the shortcoming of these 165 computers. Their log is unfortunately limited in the speed that it can transfer information from the computer to your logging device. Anyways, that's that is that. I'm just trying to show a few of the things that it can do. It's not I haven't really got it set up correctly at the moment, but it is very powerful and capable of doing quite a lot. Even on this very simplistic computer, it actually is capable of quite a bit. And as you can see, at the time when I took this log file, I was having some issues with this car. Some O2 sensor issues, and actually, as most specifically, is because of this. The TPS had failed. Throttle position sensor had failed, and it was causing all kinds of problems. So that is obviously another thing that Tunerpro is capable of doing. As you can see, there are limited error codes available on these cars. You know, the basics are there, sure. It'll tell you some pretty basic, simple errors. And they're not all shown here as well, but it certainly is not like the diagnostics available on a modern ECU. I think that is all we need to run through on Tunerpro. Yeah, it's capable of doing anything you want to do, even with that 165 computer, although it is limited in its usefulness, unfortunately. So that covers using a laptop, a PC laptop, and Tunerpro for data logging and checking trouble codes. We use the same software for actually making changes to the calibration but I won't go through or go into that right now. We'll do that at a later date when we're actually going to make a bin for this particular car. When we swap it over to the 1227730 speed density computer, we'll go through how to how to burn a prom for these cars, because they do not have flashable computers. The next thing I'm going to go through very quickly is to show an alternative method to doing this, kind of a more modern way. If you happen to not have an old Windows XP based laptop, that's not to say that only a Windows XP laptop will work with Tunerpro, but then if you don't have, with a later computer, you might have some more difficulty. I just happen to have one, and this is what I've always used for tuning, so I've managed to keep this thing going, and this is what I use. But I have read that there have been some issues with newer laptops. Perhaps they've been worked out now. I don't know. Yeah, let's go to the next thing. The next possible way of doing this. Okay, so next method, and my favorite method for data logging actually, is a amazing little app for your Android-based devices. In this case, I've got some old Android phones that I use for just this very purpose. This is called ALDLdroid. ALDLdroid effectively will do almost everything that Tunerpro can do, and perhaps in some ways more, but it's capable of a lot of things. A lot of features were implemented that I've certainly never used, in terms of you can actually use it to burn the proms. I've never tried doing that, but what I primarily use it for is I use it to data log. So I don't carry the laptop around. I can plug this into the computer, start up the car, go for a drive, and it will record the entire drive or run or whatever, and then you can export that log file into a form that Tunerpro will accept, so that you can then look at the log and determine what needs to be done to your program, to you're ultimately the program that you're ultimately going to burn onto your prom. So as I said, it's called ALDLdroid. It's very customizable. You can this is something that a little dashboard that I've set up, but you know, there's different. Obviously, that's the block learn. You've got your MAF, your O2 cross counts. That's what I'm showing here. Throttle position, once again, just to prove that this is live. As you can see, I'm pressing the gas, and that is moving. There are countless parameters that you can set up on here to log and to look at. You know, you can look at this as you're driving and use it as your little pseudo dashboard to look at these parameters as you're driving. Even again, it can also pull codes, error codes, and yeah, pretty much does everything that Tunerpro can do in a much smaller package, which is the nice thing about it. And yeah, I'm not sure what else to say about it. You know, when you turn it sideways, it flips to digital, or you can have analog gauges or digital gauges. It's very customizable, very capable little app. Highly recommend it. Yeah, for anything to do with this type of OBD1 logging and tuning, this thing is invaluable. Even if you happen to be an Apple person, I'm not sure why you would be, but if you are, then just go and buy a cheap Android phone, and this is an invaluable tool for tuning these things if that's what you're going to do. So those are the two tools that I use, the two options, two tools, Tunerpro RT and ALDLdroid are the two things. Tunerpro RT using a Windows-based laptop, and ALDLdroid using an Android-based phone. With those two things, you're pretty much covered in terms of what you want to do for tuning these things. The only other thing, of course, is the hardware required for burning the proms, which we'll get into at a later date. There's a few different options, but like I said before, it's becoming limited in terms of who you can buy this stuff from. Yeah, so that's where we're at with that. The next step is going to be to start ripping the computer out, and the computer in these things is right down there. Right where you see all those wires hanging out the bottom of the dash, that is where that 165 computer lives. So, yeah, that'll be all for now.